In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear blower motor on this Dodge Grand Caravan. It's located right behind the passenger side quarter panel here, behind all this plastic. We'll have to pull this off, so let's get started. To get this panel off of here, we will eventually need to remove the seat belts from the lower anchor points, so I'm going to start with that just to get them out of my way. To do that, we'll have to pop off this plastic cover. It should slide up and over the seat belt. I'm using a plastic trim tool just so I don't damage the plastics around it. There we go. Use a 21mm socket, remove this mounting nut. There we go, set that aside. Let's do the same to this forward seat belt for the second row. Pull this up. This one is a T50 Torx. Alright, this bolt stays with the seat belt. It's got a little retainer here. All the way to the back, right near where the lift gate is, you'll see this cargo hook. Remove this with a T25 Torx bit. Next, we have to pop this piece off of here. Take a trim tool and just lift up. We now have to do the same exact thing on the top. On each end there will be a cover that have to be removed. Pop that cover off, and under that cover will be a Phillips head screw. Do the same to the other end of it. Now you should be able to grab onto this. Just pull it straight down, just has some clips. Now there is a seat belt on this, so I'm not going to remove it from the vehicle. I'm just going to let it swing to the side over there. Now let's remove this piece here that covers the speaker and has the seat belt going through it. Just pull straight out and fish the seat belt out through the slot. Behind that panel there are two Phillips head screws. Remove them both. All the Phillips head screws here are going to be the same, so you don't have to worry about keeping them separate. They can fit anywhere where there's a Phillips head screw. On this corner piece here there are two push clips. You're going to have to gently pop those out. The only thing I have that'll fit in here is a metal trim tool, so I'm going to be careful not to damage anything. There we go. There's another one up top. Now you can take this piece and just pop it out. At this point, we just have to pop this entire panel off of its push clips. So pull on it, start from one end, work your way to the other. You don't have to unhook the seat belt from anywhere. If you just pull out on it enough, you should be able to move the panel out of the way far enough for you to work back here. To get this off, we actually have to get this piece out of here so we can basically pull this away. So to do that, just pull down on this. It was already partially not attached, so clearly someone has been in here before. So when we put it together, we're going to make sure that it seals up, otherwise air won't go where it's supposed to go. Remove two 10mm bolts, one here and one here, that hold this assembly onto the quarter panel. Now you should be able to pull this away. At this point, you can pull it a little bit upwards and away from the quarter panel. You can't go too far. There are still heater and AC lines connected to this inside this entire housing, but we can go far enough to where we can now access the blower motor, which is on the back side of this. Let's unplug it first. Connector is right down there. Press on that tab and pull it off. Take a T20 Torx bit and remove these screws. There are three of them holding this blower motor onto this assembly. Last one is right over here towards the rear. Now you can pull the blower motor out, pull it back, and there it is. Inspect this area. If the old blower motor was broken for some reason, make sure no debris is in here. And then take the new blower motor, line it up, make sure you put it the same exact way that the old one came out, as in facing the same direction. This fits perfectly in here, so I'm going to start with this top screw just because this is the easier one to start. Once one is in here, it'll kind of secure it in place so it doesn't move around. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one first. That way it'll hold it in place, like I said. Now this is threading into plastic, so right here I'm going to stop as soon as it bottoms out and gets snug, because I don't want to strip out the assembly and then not have a blower motor properly secured on it. I'm going to move on to this next one. That's tight. Last one was on the front side. That's snug. Perfect. Now we can plug in the electrical connector again, line it up, make sure it clicks, and now press it back up against the quarter panel. Make sure everything is lined up still and no wires are getting pinched when you do this. Start in whichever bolts lines up first. Snug them up. Don't make them extremely tight, just snug. This is nice and secure now. Make sure this air duct here is seated onto the housing, otherwise it won't be blowing air where it's supposed to. Let's put this duct back in, clip it onto the bottom first, and then you have to slide it into this upper one. That's why this foam is here, so it can insulate. There we go, just like that. Now let's put this panel back in. Make sure you don't get the seatbelt stuck back there. And at this point, you just want to line up all of the retainers that clip this on. And then once you're sure that they're lined up, only then push it in. Otherwise, you can break them if you don't make sure they're going where they're supposed to. Make sure the seatbelt anchor pokes through. Now put this piece back in. Get the push clips back in here. One on the bottom and one on the top. There were 2 Phillips head screws going into this panel. Make sure these are tight so this doesn't rattle around. And put this one back in. Feed the seat belt through this opening. And now the rear has to hook in first. Has little tabs that grab onto these cutouts. And then once that's in, you can press the rest into place. Okay, let's get the seat belts reattached. Make sure they're not twisted when you do that. Start this one in. It's nice and snug. It's normal for this to move around. Don't worry about it actually bottoming out this whole bolt. This is where it's supposed to stop. And put this cover back on, just like that. Let's get this rear one resecured. This was the 21mm mounting nut one. This also needs to move around, and put the cover over it. Now take this panel. It has clips all along that need to clip in. And now the 2 screws, one on each end. And of course, don't forget the caps that cover these holes. If your outer seal is sitting underneath this piece, grab a plastic trim tool and pop it over. Don't forget the cargo hook on the side. This had the T25 bolt. Make sure it still operates and lines up properly. Now, last piece, this one that covers the bottom here. Line up all the clips. Tap it in, and there you have it. Job done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.